Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they tell you it's a flat earth nation and the golden age is past and you heard it here first. So we got a lot to go over. I just checked with these gold testing things, and I've got some gold that was basically purchased for a dollar. For a dollar. So I really feel the Lord is blessing me. It's going to be shared right now. I got to go show the disclaimer. Got this new thing where I'm going to try to turn off the volume when I play the other. I hope you like this one. I'm going to be working on figuring out this doggone. I had that echo problem. I think I got it. I've seen people turning on and off their mic when they talk. That seemed to help. What do I got here? So that's old news. Twin Towers. Oh, this is the other Bush brother, the one that was in charge of the Twin Towers. Neil? No, it wasn't Jeb, but his brother's the head of the security at the Twin Towers. Nothing to see here. Africa. I got a lot going on in Africa, going to be explaining the maps. Not time to get into how they dressed back in the day, huh? Or was it even north? Was north? But it was Judah. Could have been the whole Sahara Desert was suburbs of the true Jerusalem. That could be. Let's see. This guy said here, this is an AI computer that dug this up. Maybe. Just think that the race of black men, today our slave and the object of our scorn, is the very race to which we owe our arts, science, and even the use of speech. Now, come on. He said that after seeing the Sphinx. Sphinx? I mean, Sphinx. They didn't expect the age of AI, where now AI can just comb through the photographs, present what they want in the way they want. It's all planned to blow everybody's mind because these paintings have been suppressed and they can be rediscovered in seconds by the AI. Look, it's AI. Yay. Hey, did you see what they're doing in Great Britain? Well, make Great Britain great again, if that's possible. Their police force officers are instructed to tell their bosses if they are Freemasons or secret societies. And the police do not like that at all. They don't like it because they're all in on it. In the United States also, somehow these cops, and we wonder, how do they get away with this? So there's the compass rose. Was this all Jerusalem? These lines on the map, Praetorian lines, they're made to convince people there was a globe. This must have been the start of it. Look, dark matter has to exist in their world because there's not enough gravity in the world for whatever's going on. Please, somebody, Zach Mack, if you're still there, did anybody see that? That's crazy, man. 19 miles, but that's 19 miles the hard way because Chimney Rock is in the middle of nowhere. Maybe you could ski over there, get some pictures. Let's check this out. So here's how I want to run it down. Thank you. The dark matter thing. Every calculation we make about the cosmos works only if you add dark matter. Because without dark matter,
works only if dark matter exists. But what is dark matter actually made of? It's not atoms. It's not particles from the standard model. It's something entirely different, something beyond our current physics. Scientists have proposed several possibilities. One idea is WIMPs, or weakly interacting massive particles, heavy particles that barely interact with anything. Another idea involves axions.
so as you can see, they don't care. They're going to make it up. Dark matter has to exist because their quantum math for faking atomic weapons wouldn't work, and then the deception would fall apart. Wrap it up, dude.
Including us. Without its gravitational pull, galaxies wouldn't have formed, stars wouldn't have formed, and life, including you listening right now, would not exist.
Well, I think that is a flat Earth nation and the golden age is past. You got something that you want to say? This is the last Boy Scout because we're going to be looking at conspiracy are us in his last Boy Scout short video this week. Go, Mr. Willis.
So you're gonna bribe some senators to legalize gambling?
Legalize sports gambling. You see, with all the heroes gone, legalized gambling is about the only thing that'll save the beast. You follow me, Joe? We're talking about some big bucks here. We're talking about billions. That's 9 zeros, son.
I'm not your fucking son. So you're gonna...
Does it ring a bell that this whole legalized gambling thing is not? Or remember how they signal things in the movies?
So you're gonna bribe some senators to legalize gambling?
Legalize sports gambling. You see, with all the heroes gone, legalized gambling is about the only thing that'll save the beast. You follow me, Joe? We're talking about some big bucks here.
It's about the only thing that'll save the beast. The love of money, the root of all evil. Not money. I mean, money, you need it. The love of money, bad.
We're talking about billions. That's 9 zeros, son.
I'm not your fucking son.
I guess we just had to get a cuss in there. Not a fan of the music.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about the last Boy Scout, and our focus is really going to be on the fleur-de-lis and its connection not only with the Boy Scouts, but also showing up on some of these older maps, some of them very infamous in the lost history community, and also on some buildings in the American Midwest that I find really interesting. So it's going to be jam-packed, so let's get into it now.
I would like to get into it now. Here's a video I made about it like almost 3 years ago. You notice that on these maps, they're straight and they intersect. They're used for navigation. Now, on a room line, modern room line, they're not. They spin like this when you put it on this sort of a spinning ball. They're not straight anymore. You kind of this would This is a new rum line. I'm not just making that up, because the new room lines, is not to be confused with the room line network, which works on the maps of when they were doing their age of discovery using these maps. And the Catalan Atlas is one I believe we're going to be looking at. So they work on these maps that show the star forts. That's the room line network. Don't confuse the room line network with the modern room line. The room line is an arc crossing all meridians now. The effect of following. We've only been watching for 3 minutes, but is this what they talk about? Is this what they mean when they say I sometimes beat the dead horse? I circled right back around on it right away. If I don't get to the point, I'll show you another one. A room line course on the surface of a globe was first discussed in 1537. It had some further mathematical development, they say, in 1590s. Contrasted with the Great Circle, path of the shortest distance, a blah, 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 geodesic curvature, this and that and the other thing, the Mercator projection. Well, that, this is what it looks like now. Spinning. And they can use all of these math and cosines to tell you. All right. What is else? You recognize my room there. I was staying at the Warriors Rescue in Texas, along with other things, healing from a parkour incident, but also proving that I could go a year without doing the LSD, the mushrooms, smoking the marijuana, doing the sacred herbs. Wasn't a problem. As some people say, oh, I got a problem. Maybe not. So here's an older video where I was talking about the same thing, because I've been trying to pound this for longer than un momento. That's right. You speak Spanish. 4,000 words. I thought it was importante that you heard that.
It just sucked for a lot of people. There was a lot of people that hurt here, and I'm just gonna, maybe this will help, Victoria, is because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that even people that broke my heart, like Noah, he's still out there at least doing something somewhere, because a few months ago, these people popped up and I watched a couple of their videos and they heard about Armageddon Past from Noah. So let's try to find them and look that up. And I'll just ask you to go a second mile. I'm not going to go much over 3 hours, so I'm not going to be like, hey, where are they? I believe it was 17 hours ago when I read it.
Hi, 2 weeks have gone by, and
Well, so, I just wanted to show you that there's Theron and his
haven't done
lovely
anything.
wife.
Been thinking about it a lot.
They, this is over 3 years ago, and I gave them a shout out. They heard about it from Noah Church, so things happen. But this also, I did talk about the rum lines somewhere in here, because that's the maps and Mudflood history. I would have had to get into the rum lines. Hey, let's hear what RJ had to say.
Catch up with just a little bit of dang it. That's something I use, grasp on the Bible and understand this point in history. Satan has
I listened to this earlier. I want to find the part where
maids made their way to Boaz's field. Only one that was led there. We hear about that. And it led to Boaz's field is where that Jesus Christ.
come on,
is Lord.
RJ, where's that
Confess it
part
with
I
your
wanted
mouth.
to hear?
That Jesus.
Is this it?
Being adopted by a father who not only cares, but can actually do something about your problem. Yeah. That's a great
Wow.
feeling.
You know what? I'd love to see, because the whole World War II thing and the fact that it was an extension of World War One. What was World War One? It was a time when.
Yeah, I just thank everyone, either in real time now or anyone, catching this later, that I'm thankful for what you've been doing for some time now, and I'm glad to know you and have met you in person, and hung out with you intermittently. And
Same here, brother. And we're not trying. This isn't a contest.
It's no contest in who has come and rescued me the most times. It's RJ. Anyway, here's the last Boy Scout stuff. Let's get, and then I'll go back in. Let's see what I got here. This is super important. This is called the cantinal plane, the sphere, cantinal sphere. We're going to look at that. We'll look at this thing here too. This is the wind rose. Now they say this is the wind rose. This is the wind rose. It's because it's an octagon and they can measure, the medieval wind roses measure which way the wind is blowing out in the middle of the ocean. Somehow they're going to want you to believe that. This is a Pythagoras instrument, really a reference for maintaining. It's a simplified compass. Important. Then we're going to get back into the Bible, but for now,
The fleur-de-lis, the origin of the fleur-de-lis has been debated for centuries, a lot of views and opinions, but let's start with the Boy Scouts, because when you look into the Boy Scouts, that is one of their main emblems is the fleur-de-lis, and I believe the Scouts of America have existed for over 100 years, with the original Boy Scouts being founded in 1908 by this gentleman, Lord Robert Baden-Powell. Now, interestingly, scouting in the US makes up just 5% of the world's population of scouts, but scouting is represented in 216 countries, yet all of these organizations use the same French fleur-de-lis as one of their core symbols. So apparently, the fleur-de-lis was chosen by this Lord Baden-Powell because it's a symbol that has a similarity to a compass rose, which always points north and shows the scout the way. And we're going to circle back to this point, but he's linking it to this compass rose that shows up on some of these maps. And the fleur-de-lis is at the north point of that compass rose.
So we'll jump ahead. This is a short video, but here we go. This is kind of weird.
Revived, the compass rose dates back to ancient Greece and Rome. So a lot of the old world is seemingly a reboot of whatever Greece and Rome was. And that same founder of the Boy Scouts, he also had this book, this 1908 book, Scouting for Boys, which doesn't sound so good in today's parlance.
That's a good one, Conspiracy RS.
But this is one of the older symbols of the Scouts badge from this book from, once again, 1908. And there have been many iterations of the badge over the years, and this is the world crest. Another narrative is that the fleur-de-lis originally was the crest of the French kings. So a lot of different speculation, but that's its connection to the Boy Scouts. So I wanted to switch over to these compass roses, and which you'll find on some of these older maps. At their north point, you'll find a fleur-de-lis, even on this infamous map showing California as an island. And I believe this map is from the 1600s, and we're going to touch on this map as well. But here you can see some other examples of the compass rose with the fleur-de-lis at the north point. And again, it's showing up on a lot of different maps. And
Uh, again, I want you to pay attention to these, that it is Portillion lines. That's for Portugal. Think Isabella, Queen Jezebella, uh, Spain, fighting over it, 1492, take out the one, the J, the middle of the 1,000 years, and the wheat and the tares are pretty much established as, you know what, we're a tare, but we have to act a wheat, so we have to keep it secret.
And here we go. Yeah, we're told the North Star mark was introduced by this individual Portuguese cartographer in the late, 1400s. Now, what I find interesting, and I just wanted to share this little tidbit, this is being portrayed in California on this map as an island from 1666, but this is a Dutch map, and we're
And that would have been the Julian calendar. They say they only added 10 days, but I'm suspicious.
told the Spanish are the people who actually charted all this area. And we're told they intentionally drew California as an island to throw people off. But then how did the Dutch also start reproducing these same types of maps showing California as an island? Well, what we're told when you look into it is that it's generally accepted that the Dutch must have captured a Spanish, just captured these Spanish maps and just reproduced this error, is what we're told. So that's the official history, but I thought it was interesting. So I wanted to dig into this a bit more, this compass rose with the fleur-de-lis. And I came across this paper talking about symbolism of the compass rose on these early maps. And one of the maps in particular caught my attention was this map from Pierre Reese. And he's the individual who has some of these really old maps seemingly showing what people believe is Antarctica. One of these other maps from one of his later works depicts Venice with these compass roses and the fleur-de-lis and Arabic writing on the maps. But it also has the fleur-de-lis, but I don't believe these are actually pointing north in this case. And I thought that was interesting because, again, the whole thing behind the narrative given with the Boy Scouts is that it points the way north, and it's supposed to.
Or something points what they believe is north, but the compass rose, they're going to show that it's an octagon, and these are the prevailing winds in that area.
Symbolize north, and when you dig into it, you're told the compass rose in Pierre Reese's map of Venice isn't pointing north because of these older nautical charts weren't strictly north up like modern maps. Again, which is fine, but it just sort of puts a little crack in the narrative that they were always pointing north. So I just wanted to mention that. I found that interesting. And the third thing I want to touch on is the fleur-de-lis showing up in some really interesting places like.
I was just showing this school, this Thomas Cooley, because they did that exploitation movie about Cooley High.
Detroit, Michigan, and one of the largest abandoned high schools in Michigan, Cooley High School. I do believe it's one of these old world buildings, and it's just chock full of crests and terracotta facade. And it was closed in 2010 due to declining enrollment. And I believe we're told it was constructed in the late 1920s. And this is an image from in and around that. I came across another fleur-de-lis, but this fleur-de-lis, it very much looks like one I've seen in Manhattan. And it has these two stamen here showing up, which just so happens to be, I touched on this building in Manhattan that's also full of this terracotta ornamentation that features some of these similar fleur-de-lis as well. So I thought that was interesting. And the last point I wanted to make is I just wanted to do an image search on one of these crests just to see what it came up with. And the image search gave me some information saying the image displays a terracotta reproduction of this particular family emblem. And it says they were a noble Florentine family. And again, this symbol is the coat of arms of Florence. So I found that quite a coincidence. Now, I couldn't verify this as far as like looking into more images of this family. I couldn't verify this specific crest, but I just found it, yeah, I found it very peculiar that it's this. I didn't prompt this, it just spit out this connection to Florence once again. So again, the fleur-de-lis showing up in all sorts of interesting places. And
Sounding like that music from the X-Files, doesn't it? This Arwen, you know, we can date these things. See that W? That is actually two V's before they had the W. They only did this. See the V underneath it? You know, we can track these things of when were they, where were they in their 1,000-year takeover? So let's do that. Let's close that out. This is me going blah blah blah. You know, from I studied the maps. I like all this stuff because it's true. The Cantino planisphere, wind directions. It's the same as the windrows practically, but what does it do? What are they trying to say? I believe we'll get it's into the wind, but they don't know if it was how they got it or they were sharing it by secret societies, however that works in their world. But the dates, you know, take away the 1,000, something was happening. Something was going to lead up to at the end of the 1,000 years. Put in your sickle and reap, and then Satan's loosed, and then here we are being handed this load of baloney. We heard most of this, believe that this guy found this map and paid, you know, 12 ducats, whatever that is. Okay. So 12 ducats would be 4 troy ounces, 3 troy ounces, still a lot. It would be a lot today. It'd be like $12,000 for that map. We got it, but it's only part of it. It's on the maps. I don't suppose it means anything unless we understand the history of the Tower of the Winds in Athens. What they say is right before the Messiah, Lord Christ, was born, and John the Baptist, this is what they call 50 BC. The London Vitruvius, the oldest surviving manuscript, includes only one of the original illustrations, a rather crudely drawn windrose in the margin. This was written in Germany about 800 to 825. I'm assuming that means this Anno Domino period, probably. It's the compass rose. It is a diagram used by meteorologists to give a succinct view of how wind speed and direction are typically distributed at a particular location. Historically, wind roses, they were predecessors of the compass rose found on the nautical charts, as there was no differentiation between the cardinal directions and the wind which blew from such a direction. I saw a lot of old maps that show angels blowing the wind constantly. They have one direction to blow the wind. I believe they like to call it the prevailing wind. So here it is. Somehow what they want you to project is that these are this, and that's the way the wind blows, sometimes down to the 16, sometimes 32, 64. Presented in a circular format, the modern wind rose shows the frequency of winds blowing from particular directions over a specified period, the length of each spoke. You know what they mean by a spoke. Around the circle is related to the frequency that the wind blows from a particular direction per unit time. That really, wow. Okay, well, let's look at the Polaris. They were used by Polynesians before the use of the compass. Way to go, guys. There's one. Try to get a closer look. That's it. I don't think the Polynesians were using brass, but maybe. Is that clock stuck, or did it get particularly 12 o'clock on its mind? Okay, well, that's one thing. Divided the horizon into 32 points. These points were divided from 15 stars, which rose at approximately equally spaced points of the eastern horizon, whatever they called eastern. These accomplished Polynesian navigators had names for 150 stars. They knew the point on the horizon where each of these rose and the time at which it did so. They knew the islands which each passed over because it's a flatter baby, and they're just rolling over the top. Unbelievable. These are some of the stars. They didn't get lost, but the true position of the stars is only approximate to their theoretical equidistant room. Remember the room lines on the sidereal compass. Over time, the elaboration of the Polaris points that led to the compass rose. That's the modern compass rose. It's a wind rose. In the modern use, we don't get to see the compass repeater. In appearance and use, the Polaris resembles a compass. Not at all. It does not. With sight, I just don't understand what they're trying to say. We got the compass rose, navigation. I did look at the Roomline network a little bit, but probably not enough. Pictorial charts. They were the early nautical used in the Middle Ages. Around that time period when Portugal was doing this, they had a church that became what they were going to be the Holy Roman Empire. Take that 1,000 years off, and you've got Constantine. You've got the 300 where, oh, I saw go forth and conquer in the sign of the Red Cross. Yes. Praetorian atlases. Same thing. It's these guys who are going to prop up Galileo in the mid 14s and start going with the whole look at what Copernicus discovered. It's flat. Or it's not flat. We're just some random place in a universe floating in a vacuum that can get punctured by meteorites and other people. Any map that shows Jerusalem up here is fake. They're faking these room lines because if you just keep trying to stay close to them, they think that they can help you make it. They did have a lot of shipwrecks. That's why we find a lot of gold on the bottom, because it was more important that they fake the globe than let people survive. Look at that lake let's get the Amazon. Wow. What's going on in America? What's going on in America? I usually like to look where I live, but it's covered by a shield. Interesting. Africa's interesting. Where's it showing Jerusalem? In the wrong place, because it's got the lines on it. They're faking it. There's this, oh, I already got that. This is same one? Same thing? Not really. Very interesting though. That's Africa. Is it? Or is it Cuba? Where are we? Anybody? Is north north? Is south south? What's this up here? It's upside down. This is one of these big maps you got to walk around the table to look at it. That's what's throwing me off. It's at least throwing off somebody, a couple other people here. Is that Venice? Let's get out of that. Let's get back into the Bible here. I mean, we talked about this. What can we do willingly, voluntarily? Here's two words for it. I looked them up. Romans 8:20. I'm going to look it up again. Romans 8:20. For the creation was subjected to futility. The creation, not of its own will, was subjected to futility. But because of the one who subjected it, in hope that creation itself will be, here we go with that word, set free from its bondage to decay and brought into glorious freedom of the children of God. We know that that whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth. Now, that is not until what you consider 2025. Did I really just call it like we're living in? Hey, that's not funny. Stop that type of coarse jesting. It only made me laugh because it was so out of place. That's just that. That's crazy, man. Where was I? So we're back on the map here, the Carvano map. Oh no, I was doing Bible, man. Present time. That was then talking to them so that they could say that not only, this is their way of saying, and also, not only that, but we ourselves who have been in the spirit now inwardly are going like, I had no idea how hard this was going to be. I'm glad that Jesus warned us. I'm only making that up, but it seems like something Lord would say. They were waiting eagerly for the adoption, our adoption, but they had already been adopted as sons. Oh, the redemption of the bodies, that part hadn't happened yet. They were still in hope. They know they were saved, but hope that is seen doesn't really require faith. It is no hope at all. Who hopes when they have everything presented to them. There are no mysteries. There isn't, the Bible's not true. His ways are not higher than our ways. We can figure everything out. All we needed was Madame Blavatsky and Aleister Crowley. But no, his spirit, God is spirit. Those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Gospel of John, chapter 4, verse 24. That spirit that manifests helps us in our weakness. We don't know how to pray, but the spirit can pray for us. Now, I don't believe we speak in tongues anymore, but they did, and when that stopped, they poured out their heart, and God searched their hearts and our hearts. It's what happened. And once we know that our God works all things together for good to those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. For those that God foreknew, he predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. He rose from the dead, firstborn among many, what he calls brothers, because we've been adopted. We've been redeemed by our kinsman redeemer. He predestined some, called, justified. Those he justified, he glorified. It's going to happen if you stay faithful. If God is for us, who can be against us? We are more than conquerors now. These words, by your works, by your deeds, these are what you've been called to do. We could just slide down and pick any one of them. John 3:19. Let's look at it in the Berean Standard Bible. And this is the verdict. The light has come into the world, but men loved darkness rather than light because the world has works. Their works were evil, not only their minds. We read about them in Romans chapter 1, what they're up to. This is what they're like, I'm looking for a good time. Anybody know what I can do for a good time? Well, they're the ones who did not see fit to acknowledge God. So he gave them over to depraved minds to do what ought not to be done. Now, we've all been wicked, but I don't think we've all been filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. They're full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. Well, that makes sense that a lot of people are genocided to this day. Gossiping, slandering, backstabbing. Oh, I added that one. Slandering, God-hating, insolent, arrogant. They're faithless, senseless, heartless. Invent new forms of evil. They know God's righteous decrees, but no, they are happy to teach other people those things. One of the most scary and hard to hear about things is the fact they don't want you dead. They want you suffering. They want you burned at the stake after you've been filleted alive and had your testicles cut off, while they make you watch them eat your children in front of your eyes while you're burning to death. Do you understand their tender mercies are evil? They're not you who are called, chosen, and faithful. They don't think like you. You're called to do unto all these people as you would have them do unto you. I'm encouraging you to think you should just leave them. Just go away, as far away. You don't need the world. You don't need the city or their bitcoins. Some more Bible verses. Some more Bible verses, not the same one. So this is why he was charged that the time will come when men will not tolerate sound doctrine. Because we read in the first chapter of 2 Timothy that all of Asia has departed Paul. And those were the same 7 churches were written to churches in Asia, and the world had the gospel preached to it. But with itching ears, they fell apart. But he's talking to them, be sober in all things. It's going to be hard. We still have people that are not saved yet. We know when we've fought a good fight. And if you're still here and breathing, it's time to fight that fight of faith now, where we've beaten our swords into plowshares. Even Demas, in his love of this world, had deserted Paul and gone to Thessalonica. Luke was with him. He needed to get Mark. Mark grew up to be the man Paul wanted him to be by discipline. There were other people. Come to me, bring the cloak. He wasn't planning on dying. He wanted to stay warm. Bring my scrolls, especially the parchments. Paul still had work to do, and he was going to do it. It was in chapter 1, verse 15. You know that everyone in the province of Asia has deserted me, including 2 once very prominent, called but not chosen. Sorry, Jesus doesn't know you. Moving on to the next Bible thing here. 10,000 times 10,000. It is 1,000-year reign. There are words for myriads, and there are words for thousands. When we study, let's go to Revelation 9 and look at that 1,000. It is not going to be Celia. It's myriadron. It's just throwing out, it's a big number times a big number times a big number. I'm practically forcing this on you, I know, but it's just super important, because when we go to Revelation 20, and we need to know, how long was Satan in this pit? Great chain descending, serpent, devil, Satan bound him for that amount. 8 out of the 11 set the time of the star clock that God gave us in our enclosed, domed, flat earth. One day to spirit God is 1,000 years. That's the way he made it. And in Revelation 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it always means that 1,000 years where what? Satan thrown into the abyss, shut it, sealed over Satan, so that he could not deceive the nations until the 1,000 years were complete. After that, he had to be released for a short time to deceive the nations. Notice, it wasn't so that he could be tortured. It was so that he could not deceive the nations. Back to that Greek. It's just hard. It's necessary. This is the word. John the Baptist, that prophecy, these things had to happen. You feeling it? It was necessary. There are certain necessary things that are going to happen. I don't think we have enough time to get to Acts, but I'll hit this one. And I want to see if that necessary thing, that word, is used in the book of Acts in chapter 15. Necessary. Some people were saying it was necessary to circumcise the Gentiles. No. Let's look at it. They said no. They rose up. Certain bad people claimed to be sent from the Pharisees went to the Gentiles saying this word. It is necessary to circumcise them and command them to keep the law of Moses. Strong words. Commanded, he commanded them. Jesus directed them. Go sit down if you're hungry. If you're hungry, sit down. When we go to this chapter, we can go down into the verses in 20 after they're writing a letter, because they went over it in their head and they said, we're going to write them a letter and we're going to tell them to abstain from food polluted by idols, from sexual immorality, from meat strangled, and from blood, because that's what they said. You don't have to do all these other that the fake prophets are saying necessary. You only have to do these 4 things, and we're going to write them a letter. So they changed the order, but they did write them a letter. It's in quotes and stuff, Here's the letter. Come to our attention that these guys are out of their mind giving you commandments that aren't good. But now that all of the apostles are together, the surviving apostles were together, including Paul, James, John, Peter, they're all there. And the Holy Spirit bears witness that you're not going to have to follow the whole laws, but you do have to do something essential. Here's some essential requirements. I'll leave that highlight. Here's the fixed order now. You must abstain from food sacrificed to idols, from blood, that jumped up to super more important, from meat strangled. That's how they get their adrenochrome, I believe. And, don't be a horn dog. Avoid these things. You will do well. A very pedestrian use of the word well, the small word EU. Here's the necessary things. If you do these things, it will be well. Eat these things. It will do well. Farewell. Do you like to hear well done, good and faithful servant? That's what it means. You will do well. What they're meaning is saying you'll hear this. You like that, right? That's a motivation. That's why sometimes you're stirred up and other times you're not. Sometimes you just get stirred up. All right. No, this is, I read this all the time. Him. He's the one able to keep us from stumbling and present us unblemished in his glorious presence. Great joy. Not without suffering. And I don't care if that, this thing quotes what they call a Enoch. It's not. It's ridiculous. I'm going to show a couple more videos, kind of get ready to wrap this up.
Standard evangelical line of trying to seemingly manipulate people with a lot of tears and all this and that, and we got hundreds of millions of dollars involved. I'm already suspicious, and that's my point here, is to go beyond the drama and beyond the things, the details that nobody's ever going to, we'll probably never figure out. Nobody will ever know what the actual story of Egyptian plains is. Okay. And I know this because of the way that so much information from 9/11, the big 9 event, like a lot of that stuff we just don't know. We'll never figure out. It's never going to be probably known unless somebody actually does know and comes forward or something like that. But like the issue behind all of this is, wait a minute, TPUSA is an entity, an organization that funds and supports people out of Calvary Chapel, out of what was it, New Apostolic Reformation, entities that people that claim that they are new appointed prophets and the new apostles. That's
Now, the Calvary Chapel, the speaking in tongues, that Kansas City movement where they had the laughing, and that's who he's talking about. That's who they're into. That's who Charlie Kirk was. And they're getting into that gay stuff that's coming out, that they were tadpoles. And, now these people like what, Nick Fuentes and these other guys, they didn't even think about getting married or having dates until they never have. I'm too busy. What? Doesn't work that way.
Are completely fake. They made the antique armor. They made the antique guns. The mechanical self-playing instruments don't actually play. They move and sound is produced, but the sound is not being produced necessarily by the instruments. Everything is fake, even though.
Now, if it was fake, I would have told you. I've been there. And this recently has become kind of a big deal to me. The house on the rock in Wisconsin. So you just heard the guy that did Atlas Obscura, and he's recently on the YouTube, but he's big enough, and he's got the whole Atlas Obscura where people can look up old maps and stuff. But he's outright declaring that this place is fake and short selling it. It's a good gimmick for travelers, but this is all they show on the top. It's not a big place, yet underneath it's a Star Fort dugout thing. There's a giant whale fighting a squid that combined is taller than the Statue of Liberty, all under that house. Everything is, this would be easy for them to build. This is one of the things above ground. Humans could do that, and it's the weakest part of their whole thing. Do those look fake? Does it really look like what this guy said, that the guy made everything?
Thing a little bit hard to believe. Secondly, the house's collections are completely. So there are some reasons to doubt the authenticity of this Frank Lloyd Wright story. One, Frank Lloyd Wright was in Japan. Two, the supposed architectural designs submitted by his father were for a building that was actually built by a different architect. Three, the single source for this story, Sid Boyum, who helped build the House on the Rock, won the World Championship Liar Contest in 1976, making the entire thing a little bit hard to believe. Secondly, the house's collections are completely fake. They made the antique armor. They made the antique guns. The mechanical self-playing instruments don't actually play. They move and sound is produced, but the sound is not being produced necessarily by the instruments. Everything is fake, even though it's not real. It is, in fact, an incredible expression of Alex Jordan's bizarre mind and artistic pursuit. So while it may be one of the greatest hoaxes ever perpetrated on the American tourist public, it is also one of the greatest works of installation art ever created.
Why would he lie about it? Because obviously they didn't sit around saying, oh, I'm going to spite Frank Lloyd Wright. Nobody has ever believed that story. It's made up. His whole thing is, but they didn't sit around making these and filling up Now they showed the picture of this weapon and said he just made it. He just slapped some pipes together, but it's engraved metal that doesn't rust. These are I've been there. They're real. These spider webs are real. These dolls are real. It's a way to store things, their history of the future, of maybe what somebody tried to preserve before the end. Something happened in the middle of a star fort. Somebody collected all of these things. They didn't make these things to fake people out. They were storing them. This maybe, but how long does it take to make a whale fighting a squid that's longer than the Statue of Liberty? Old maps, old boats. They made all these by hand because they're going to teach that Frank Lloyd Wright a lesson, huh? They faked all of these too. Let's just engrave these things. Let's fake scrimshaw, fake bones, and hide it in a star fort underneath an ordinary looking, mansion, a small mansion. That's a lot of instruments that you put in a quarter and they start playing based on power from somewhere. This place, all of these, you put in a quarter and they'll play. And that's fake. They faked the world's largest indoor carousel merry-go-round. It sure looks like these drums play. But they break down. They're not going to be perfect. There's plenty of room for so many things. You stand right there watching it. You can hear and see the machines hitting the drum. I've raised 2 percussionists. I've heard that I can play the drums. I know what I hear. This was not faked. I don't know why that guy did that. I like it. Maybe we'll come back to it. Let's look at it and see what else we got here. Some Reddit pictures of the guns. So, they zoomed in on this one part here and said, it's all fake. They didn't show you the angles that, wow, this is non-rusting, super embellished Damascus steel. And the ones behind it, they're going like, they faked it all. Did they really? No, I don't believe they did. I don't believe they could do this with that old walnut. I've seen the weapons. I've seen the weapons at the museums in Chicago where I was stuck. So there's the other side of the house. You don't get much on the top. Just again, maybe they did fake some of it as a way to cover the walls, because you don't want to just show that, oh, well, they had a star fort they built to put all of these things in. You've got to have some distractions, but even there are things that don't look like they work, because I don't see where you put the money in on this one. Uh, that's a whole piano in the back. That's just no wood around it. So this is another full piano. I don't know if these pipes work if you hook them up somewhere else, but there are some distractions. But it goes on and on. It's an underground star fort that they have all the walls hidden, all the machines. You put a quarter in this thing and it works. They got them hooked up. They got them rigged up. They want to make the money. That looks pretty fake, but it's still a piano. And I don't know what these are. For all I know, they work somewhere. For all I know, these wooden things, you hit them with a mallet and they make noise. These drums hanging in here, these they did cast bronze Japanese drums that weigh a ton because they wanted to spite Frank Lloyd Wright, and decided to hang them up in the middle of a star fort that every part has been obfuscated. So you can't see that it's a star fort. It looks like a glitchy, like that word, glitchy tourist trap. Covered a lot. Now there's that picture. They didn't focus on this one up here. Does that look like how many days does that take to fake? And they've got hundreds of old weapons. But there's a close up from Almy. I don't like to use them, but I wanted to show you the scrolling work, which it's not as easy as it looks. You gotta hit that with a sharp chisel and treat it like it's leather, So there we go. We've covered so much, and the maps and everything else is undeniable evidence that the mud flood was Armageddon. That's why me and my friends are never going to tell you anything except that, and it's flat Earth Nation. The golden age is past. Trust Scripture. Trust what's written on your heart. You're saved by grace. You are a seed planted in soil with works that have been prescribed before the foundation of the world that you're capable of doing, and you're going to be judged on how you do at that work. Me and my friends are never going to tell you anything else. Why would we? We're convinced, we're called, chosen, faithful to having your best interest at heart. We know because it seems like we made a free choice to be on our knees, confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, God, Creator, and then confess it with our mouth. Tell our friends and die in faith. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakamen. Adios, amigos. That's how I like to say goodbye for now, anyway.